Welcome, everybody, to beginning and growing a career in cybersecurity, digital forensics, and threat intelligence, which are the areas of that I work on. This is a webinar that's kind of I've wanted to do this, and I probably will follow up with a few more based on how this webinar goes. If you have questions and I'm like, oh, that's a really good question, we could just talk about that one in depth. I'll probably try to do one. I know I'm going to do one on a resume workshop for cybersecurity. Just one on that, and a webinar just for people to come and learn from me, as well as to ask questions about resumes. That's something I get a lot of questions on. So anyway, welcome. I'm so excited you're here. Thank you for your time in being here. And I'm sure you guys came with a lot of questions that you want asked and answered. I am Sergio Caltagirone, the president of the Threat Intelligence Academy, and it is my goal as part of my life to give as much back to the community as I can. So I did launch the Threat Intelligence Academy in 2020 to build cost-effective training for cybersecurity people. So I think it's a bit crazy out there. So I was hoping to add some value to people and options. Okay. So one thing, I'm just going to get the pitch out of the way for you, and it's not really a pitch, but I have a lot of problems with the education in the cybersecurity space. People want to get better and they don't know how. They want to continue their education after they've taken some courses. They want they want training at a reasonable price, all these things. So I created this brand new course. It's launching next month, which is TIA 811. It's the Cyber Threat Seminar. It is a weekly class. You get 40 hours a year of training. It's a curated library of resources for you. It's also a discussion board. You can ask questions. You can also just request a lesson. You can be like, hey, I really want to know about this. And I will go and put a lesson together for you on it. So anyway, if you want to view more information on that, you can sign up at the link below. I'm also going to link that in the chat for everybody, that you can obviously go and visit the seminar, and if you're interested in something like that. So again, I have the frustration. I get this question all the time from people. It's like, hey, I took this class. What do I do now? Like, how do I continue my education? And it is very frustrating. There's not a lot out there. And in traditional education, if you think about it, traditional circles of education, philosophy, physics, mathematics, we have both in those very, I would say, long term disciplines. They've learned to really do two things to continue education. One is conferences and papers and researches and journals, which we have in cybersecurity. The other one are seminars, which we do not really do in cybersecurity. And so that's something I'm hoping to add and borrow from the larger scope of how other disciplines continue and build a professionalization in this space. So anyway, that's the pitch. Let's go on to the stuff you're all here for. Okay, my name is Sergio Caltagirone. So first, I'm just going to let you know how I got into cybersecurity, and then I'm going to kind of lead you through what I've learned and what I think are kind of the ways we do it now, and how you kind of get into this, you grow a career, you build a career, and you look out into the future. If you have questions at all during this, go ahead and drop it in the chat to me, or drop a Q&A and drop it in the Q&A section, and I will happily pick it up and answer it for you. So I started with a bachelor's degree in computer science. Now, actually, my interest was not originally in computers. It was actually in theatrical lighting design. So I was going to go do concert and live theater lighting design. That was actually my original that. And I was also actually interested in nuclear physics, and physics it's still one of my loves in life is physics. So anyway, I ended up getting in computers and I kind of fell into it. And so I ended up with a degree in computer science, but I also got a degree in theology, comparative Christian theology. So I did that in and that will actually come up a little later, interestingly. And trust me, I've heard all the jokes about what do you do? Do you want to write Bible software in your life? I got all of that in my life. But I really enjoyed Christian theology, asking questions, being very critical of how we think about things and things like that. So I ended up with a degree in theology as well. Then I went on and I got my master's degree in computer science at the University of Idaho. And it was at that point one of the, I think, 8 schools in the United States that actually had a dedicated cybersecurity program. And so it was one of the few places you could go and get actually a cybersecurity degree, or a degree that focused on cybersecurity. It was a traditional computer science degree though. So I did all the things like operating systems and assembly language programming and all that stuff that you do in computer science, algorithm analysis and all that. So after my master's degree, I took a job with the United States National Security Agency, the NSA, and I spent 8 years there. I was their lead cyber threat intelligence analyst for ever. It was a long time. And I helped, me and a couple other folks helped kind of found, and create that that discipline inside the National Security Agency. It really didn't exist when I joined the NSA. And so I was lucky enough I would say that I was lucky to land in a career field that I got to define for myself, which is really cool. And, but honestly, very lucky. You don't engineer your career around that. So after 8 years at the NSA, I went over to Microsoft. They asked me to help start their forensics and threat intelligence kind of practice around hunting and understanding threats. So I went over there and helped them start the Microsoft Threat Intelligence Center, Mystic now. And then I left Microsoft and I joined a bunch of friends who went to found Dragos, which is an industrial control cybersecurity company. And I was vice president of threat intelligence over there at Dragos. In my career, I have contributed to over $100 million of sales. I've done marketing. I've done reverse engineering. I've done network analysis. I've done digital forensics. I've kind of done it all. And really the fact is because I had to, right? That there weren't really a lot of people doing this. And so I just kind of had to build this really eclectic skill set to do the work. The benefit of that is I have a huge perspective on different things in the, both technical and non-technical. I've also been a hiring manager for, I don't know now, I guess about 11 years now, 10 years I've been a manager. About half of my career I've spent being a very technical manager. So I've done technical work and been a manager kind of at the same time, at least when time allowed. So I have a perspective on that. And I will happily share with that here, as well as if you have any questions about management or becoming a technical manager or a non-technical manager, or do I go become into management, things like that. We're going to talk about that as well in this seminar, or in this, I should say, this webinar. Okay, so one thing I like to say is fundamentally, slides are a terrible communication mechanism. I absolutely hate slides, but you look stupid if you don't use them. I would much rather sit here and have a conversation with you, but that's not how this really works. And so I'm going to use the slides, but I'm also obviously going to share the slides after this. So you can have the slides and use them for whatever you think you need them for. But anyway, that's my take on what slides are like in this world. So let's start off with training and education, where most people are going to think that they start a career in cybersecurity. So the key element, and in this webinar, I'm going to tell you the way things are. Okay, I'm not giving you the scripted answer for things. The one that managers should say these things to people, or I'm not going to do any of that. I'm going to tell you the way it really is. And so some of the things might come off as a little direct, but that's exactly what I need it to be, as honest and transparent as I can be for you. And I will give you all of my benefit of all my experience. The first thing to know is that your education will likely determine your first job in cybersecurity. But it won't have much of an impact beyond that. In fact, experience in cybersecurity, and also having a educational background in a different field is highly desirable. So if you have a degree already or experience, doesn't have to be a degree, in another field, and you transition into cybersecurity, you will ultimately actually be more valuable than somebody who only does cybersecurity. And I know that's a weird thing to say. That's not something most people tell you, but it is absolutely true. And I can tell you this by have hired hundreds of people, interviewed thousands of people in my career, and watched people grow for the last 20 years. So I can tell you that that's actually how it works. So if you're coming into this field from somewhere else, welcome. I love it. I cannot wait to see how you can broaden and enrich what's going on in cybersecurity. We need all of the perspectives we can get, and realize that that does not hinder you at all in this space. It doesn't make your path as direct as it would for other people, but it definitely doesn't actually hinder the value that you will have inside of the cybersecurity profession. So that's one thing I want to tell people. And generally, after 2 years of experience, your education doesn't really matter anymore. If you don't have a formal education, you didn't graduate high school, you didn't graduate college, maybe you went through the military, you got a GED, I can tell you none of that actually matters beyond really your first job. It's going to be getting your first job that's going to be the hardest. Beyond 2 years, it doesn't matter anymore. So one of the things I love about cybersecurity is it can be an extremely egalitarian and equalizing profession. In fact, most of the people that I have hired onto my teams in cybersecurity have not had college degrees, have had high school diplomas, or went through the military. And now that's going to change because the number of cybersecurity, information security, and all of those programs in colleges are changing and growing, but it's still the case that a vast majority of people coming into cybersecurity do not have a traditional background in this. And that's okay. So I want you to know what the perspective is of education in this field. Next, traditional paths. The traditional, I would say, easiest paths, honestly, to get into cybersecurity would be through an engineering or mathematics degree, a computer science or something like that degree, a very traditional degree in through a college or a university program. That will be the easiest way to get your foot through the door. Whether you have an associate's or whether you have a bachelor's, it's okay. You will get a job faster and easier with that. Just the fact of the matter. Cybersecurity degrees or degrees that are in cybersecurity are a really weird thing because there isn't a good defined program for what a cybersecurity degree is, by the way. Not like there is for computer science or mathematics, or if you have a degree in mathematics, we kind of know what you did. If you have a degree in computer science, we kind of know what you did and what you know. If you have a degree in computer security, I am going to actually have to look at the school and your coursework to see what did you actually do there. Was it more of a policy-based degree, or was it a technical degree, or things like that? So just want to let you know, those of you who are considering getting degrees in cybersecurity, it is absolutely now a traditional path of getting into the field, but it's not as easy. It's still not as easy as if you had an engineering, mathematics, or computer science degree. Data science would be another one of those too. Like, you got a degree in data science. Well, what does that mean? What did you study? Things like that. And that's not to say that those aren't valuable. That's not what I'm saying here. I'm just saying it is not the direct path. And it does, and I'm going to be honest with you, what will make it harder for you in different ways. Things that you should know that you have to overcome to get there. One thing I loved, by the way, is that somebody who came to me, and this is the first time I've seen it, somebody who came to me with a cybersecurity degree actually sent me a pamphlet for the school they went to and the coursework that they did. This basically kind of like a short syllabus of all of the courses that they took. And that was fantastic. It made it super easy for me as a cybersecurity manager to figure out what is this person coming in do, what can they do right off the bat? So if you are coming in with a cybersecurity degree, that could be a potential opportunity for you to educate the person who's hiring you on what you did. The next way is certification programs. These are okay. You've got to be very careful. There is a lot of snake oil out there, and you can pay so much money for useless certifications. So the only ones you want to go after are the ones that are actually listed in the job descriptions of jobs that you're interested in doing. You shouldn't go after any degree you find by Googling it, or I'm sorry, any certification you find by Googling it. It's just not going to work that way for you. There's just too much snake oil stuff going on in certification for cybersecurity. There's ones that are okay, and then there are ones that are just terrible and nobody would care if you have them. So the key with certifications, though, is that one, it's really about your first job fundamentally, or if you're doing and we're going to talk about this, or if you're doing a lateral move to another job. So if you're doing one job and you want to do a different job, certifications can help move you that way. The other thing to know is that you should work your butt off to get your employer to pay for your certifications. If you are paying for them yourself, I'm sorry, that's something that happens, and I don't think that's okay in this field. Employers should be paying more for certifications in this field, and you can get them to do it. You just have to fight for it. And just want to let you know. The last path, traditional path, is through an internship. And that's a great path. We're going to talk a little bit about internships in this webinar. So that's another way of getting into cybersecurity, either directly from education or crossing over from a different career path. Okay, so some suggestions of basically what are things that really work well of kind of breaking into cybersecurity. We're gonna start about how to get into cybersecurity. Then, by the way, the webinar is going to transition to, okay, you're already here. What do you do now? How do you grow a career? What does all that mean? Okay, so we're starting at the beginning. We're going to go kind of towards the end. First, I always tell people, get operational experience in cybersecurity. Go after something that has operations in it, if you want to think of it that way, like a security operations center or a threat operations center or whatever kind of terminology, or make sure that the role is in the security division, or at least it has a security job title. Because security can kind of be a mixed up bag of where things are. So the two ways you can kind of really figure it out is, are they within a security division of the business organization, or are they, or does it have security in the title, the job title? And those are the two things you want to look for to figure out, is this job really something that I should be going after? But here's the thing. Also, again, breaking into this field, don't shy away for jobs that also are just information technology jobs. And maybe and because most IT jobs have a security component in them. And if you do an IT job that has a security component in it, you can talk that experience up in your resume for your next job, and you can just pivot right into cybersecurity. Not only that, but I love people that come to me with IT experience. You were a Windows manager, or you operated you managed a cloud environment, or you did network administration, or heck, you managed 10 kids on a wireless network in a school. Those are great. I love that. Why? Because the problems we deal with in cybersecurity are operational problems, and if you don't understand how networks and computers operate, it's going to be much harder for you. So immediately you check a box with that kind of background of, oh, this at least person knows what it's like to run a computer network or to operate something, or the difficulties and the frustrations that people have with it. So again, those experiences matter in this space. Another thing I tell people, the easiest way to break into cybersecurity is through a government job. Number one. So the key here is governments are begging for cybersecurity talent, and they will. And the cool part about governments is they will train you. They have better training budgets than any other place on earth. So if you can get a government job in cybersecurity, that is a great place to start. Corporate cybersecurity is a bit of a whole bunch of landmines as to whether you're going to land in the right place, you're going to get the right experience, you're going to, be grown in the right way. Government jobs are less of a risk when it comes to that. So when you balance those things, you got to think of that. The next one is ignore your first job title. I get, like I said, if you were working in the security division or if you have security in the job title, those are the two things you really care about. The other thing is, and here's a secret everybody doesn't know, you can change your job title. So one is you can redefine what your job was given a better title when you leave. I don't give a shit what anybody says, okay? If they gave you a really stupid title inside Google because they thought they were being cute, and that title holds you back in your career, change your flipping job title on your resume. Don't lie. I'm not asking you to lie. I'm just saying you can make it more descriptive and more consistent with what's in the community. Okay. As a manager, I have a really hard time defining job titles because you only get one title. Okay. And maybe a job is kind of wonky as to what it does. And there might not be a good definition for it. So you have to kind of come up with something. And of course, if you pick the wrong thing, you're not going to get the right thing. And it's really hard. And so as a manager of a decade, I can tell you, I have a lot of sympathy for people who are like, yeah, that's not really the job title I want. And I'd be like, well, what job title do you want? I'll change your job title for you. Or if you leave the company and you want to change your job title on your resume, as long as you're not lying or being deceitful about it, make it better for yourself, right? Make it more descriptive or more consistent for yourself. That it's okay. It's something that I think a lot of people need to be told. The other one is, if you find a job in a big organization, they're more likely to spend money on training on you than a small organization. Training budgets in big organizations tend to be a lot bigger. They also don't tend to get cut back nearly as much as small organizations. So be very careful. So my recommendation is best entry-level cybersecurity jobs are those with big organizations, and you tend to want to find ones that are in the operational areas of those big organizations. Governments are big organizations. Large Fortune 100 companies are big organizations, things like that. A rule I will tell you though, you don't have to, nor should you ever, take an unpaid internship or a position that puts you in a negative financial situation. Cybersecurity is a flippin' rich place, okay? There's a lot of money there. And you should not allow yourself to be exploited or taken advantage of. I have people that come to me and they're like, hey, I'll take an unpaid internship with you. And I'm like, you should never do that, nor will I ever do that. And you should never offer that. Okay, there is more than enough money to pay people what they deserve in this field. And you should demand that for yourself, okay? So I get that a lot, but don't ever do that to yourself. It is not okay. There is more than enough money here to pay people. Next. Okay, so what if you took a different path in life? What if you're transitioning into cybersecurity and you're coming from a different place? There's a lot of ways to do that. And I've hired and trained a lot of people that have come from alternative paths, as much as I hate using that because their path was as legitimate as my path. There is no illegitimate path into this, okay? I would just say there's more traditional and non-traditional ways of kind of like getting direct into it. I can tell you, I've hired people with backgrounds in international relations, with backgrounds in English, who have English degrees, people who have psychology degrees, people who have just general studies, people with just high school diplomas. It's okay. You can do this. Your background in education nor your interests will hold you back in cybersecurity. I promise you that. Now, it might take a little bit more creativity to break into the field, okay, to find the right job that fits what you want to do and the experience that you have, and try to, kind of get that first thing. But like I just said, after your first 2 years in cybersecurity, nobody's really going to care. In fact, your alternative path into cybersecurity is going to make you more valuable than the person who just went direct in. So here's where I said earlier, the easiest way to break into cybersecurity is through a big organization. But the easiest way to transition into cybersecurity is through a small organization, because smaller organizations tend to be a lot more creative about how they utilize people. And so they'll look at other experience more valuably than a large organization does. So are you good at communicating? Did you get a degree in English? There's that famous song from Avenue Q, "What do you do with a BA in English?" Right? You can become a writer in cybersecurity. I've hired lots of writers in cybersecurity who we transition into being threat analysts, right? Actual analysts, not just writers. You may start as a writer, but I can guarantee you're going to get the experience towards being an effective analyst, or or more of a technical role. Are you good at planning? Well, you could become a product or a program manager for an organization that does cybersecurity. That's helpful. You could do procurement, for cybersecurity. Are you good at art? There's a lot of jobs in cybersecurity for art. Actually, you want to be a designer, you want to be a formatter for material, you want to help with marketing for cybersecurity, you want to do UX design for cyber. All of those jobs are necessary, and there are a lot of jobs for them in cybersecurity. Again, don't try to get the job that you think you want in the rest of your life, right? You find your way in, and then, like I said, after 2 years, it is super easy to transition inside this career path. So really just think of it that way, is where you want to do. Okay, I have a question here in it. Okay, do you have any recommendations for those of us who are changing into cybersecurity and are both overqualified and underqualified simultaneously? Oh, I'm sorry I laugh. That it's such a stupid problem, honestly. And I'm sorry that we have this problem, because it is not okay that we have this problem. First of all, there's no such thing as overqualified for any position ever. If somebody wants to do something, I don't care. And that is honestly something that needs to die. There's no such thing as overqualification. And a lot of cybersecurity managers, just letting you know, have that perspective. Not all of them, though. There are still a lot who carry some baggage that's not okay. So my recommendation is you cut down on what you consider overqualified experience. Make a shorter resume. Because what happens with people who are quote unquote overqualified is they tend to put all of their words in their resume into the bucket that they're overqualified in. And what you should do is you should actually make it shorter. So that when you look at the balance of the resume, it kind of looks more like a starter resume than it does somebody who's been around for a long time. And I think you're going to find a lot more success doing that. That's kind of the way to go. The other thing, though, is that, just to be honest with you, here is one problem. If you are overqualified, I'm just going to use the words you did, even though I don't necessarily agree with them. If you are overqualified, one of the problems is you may have a salary expectation or requirement, which is okay, that may not meet an entry-level job. That's okay. Here's what you do. You still apply for the entry-level jobs, and then you negotiate. And this field, regardless of the stupid, and I do apologize if any of you have been hurt by this, because it's hurt a lot of people I know, I myself, that have lost their jobs more recently in cybersecurity. That's not going to last, by the way. It is going to pass. It sucks right now. It's stupid. It's not necessary. There's no company out there fighting for their lives right now. But it is the way it is. So but you can negotiate. Honestly, I have hired people with PhDs into entry-level positions, and I'm like, no, you earned the PhD and you earned that salary. And I think you will find that a lot of cybersecurity managers will agree with that. So just letting you know. Okay, another question is kind of the same vein. I'm coming from a principal role in incident response. Great, excellent job. What would you recommend for your join a CTI team without taking a pay cut? The answer is negotiate. Fight for that. Don't accept what they are asking. But you're going to have to negotiate. But I can tell you that your experience is extremely valuable on a CTI team. Oh my God. Like my challenge running CTI teams has always been getting more experience for my analysts to do incident response. And so very much I would do that. I would look that way. The other thing you can do is you can look for incident response teams who want to do more threat intelligence. And you can try to go that path. But yes, I do know that the whole pay and salary situation is very difficult and it is a realistic problem. So, but my argument is you can get what you want and what you need. It does happen in a lot in this career path. So I'm not saying it's going to be simple. I'm not going to say it's going to be the first 10 people you talk to, but you can get there. People will pay for your experience. Okay, so what are some non-technical skills that have helped me in my career path? Because I mean, I have a background in computer science, right? So it's obvious what my technical background brings to a technical field, right? It's just kind of stupid that that it's obvious. So, but I can tell you that I could not do what I have done in my career without these skills. And people always ask me, they're like, hey, what non-technical skills should I go after? My answer is you can never get good enough at communicating. Absolutely communicate better. Join a Toastmasters club, practice public speaking, join a debate club. These things exist for adults. There are debate clubs for adults. Don't debate on Twitter. That is not a debate club, nor is it beneficial for many people, just that although a lot of people treat Twitter as a debate club. Write a blog, get feedback, ask for critical feedback. The problem is that a lot of people are afraid of hurting your feelings. But when you say, hey, look, I'm actually looking to get better, I'd love your critical feedback. People will absolutely do that for you. If you're very open to, I want to hear how I can do better at this. Find a communications mentor, somebody who's really good at communicating, a good writer, a good presenter. Ask them to help you. Not nearly enough people ask for help. I can tell you that. I put out requests all the time of like, hey, anyone need help with their resume? Send me your resume. I get like 2. And I know there are far more people that need help than that. So find people that aren't in cybersecurity who are good communicators and ask them to help you. You will be surprised at the number of people who are out there that are willing to give you what you need. Another skill, analysis and logic and critical thinking. Strangely, one of the best things I ever did in my career was biblical exegesis. Right, the ability to critically examine a 2,000 or 4,000-year-old text and understand the historicity of it and the context and the language and the interpretation and kind of pull it all apart. It helped me become an extremely good analyst, and I use those skills all the time. It's ridiculous how good it was for me, but it was a skill I had to build. So take logical and critical thinking skill courses. Take those that require exercises though, not just lectures. Lectures are great. They're not going to help you build a skill. You have to do practice to do that. So those are options. Okay. Okay, I have a question here. Somebody has experience in incident response. I wanted to get into threat intelligence, so you registered for my Intel course. You passed the SANS CTI. I work for a smaller company that has no need for Intel. Congratulations on passing the CTI exam for SANS, by the way. It is a great course. I offer a different CTI course than theirs. Mine's like, 6 months long. Theirs is 1 week long, so it's a very different experience. Basically, any suggestions on how to get into an Intel role? The answer is just apply. And I know this is stupid suggestion, and you're gonna be like, well, duh, Sergio, why am I on this webinar if you're giving me, that exact but that's literally all it takes. And you may not be looking in the right place for them. I'll give you a couple of places you can do that. I'll give you a couple examples of some good places to go. The other thing you need to do is get back to what I just said, ask. Okay, ask. Are you in a Discord server that has a whole bunch of people in it and you're looking for a CTI job? Ask. DM people on Twitter or LinkedIn and ask, do you know of any CTI positions that are currently available, or where I might go find them? I'm trying to get into CTI from this other thing, right? I have a SANS certificate for CTI. I'd like to get into it. Just ask. It's going to take a little bit more legwork. Obviously, this isn't the easy path, but it is going to work. I've seen it work for lots of people. Or send your resume to somebody and be like, hey, I really want to get into CTI. Can you send this resume to some other people you might know that are looking for, entry-level people in CTI? I've done that throughout my career. I've always passed good resumes around. I've always said, hey, I don't have a job for this person, but this person's looking, does anyone else? And I've done that for other people. Again, if you ask, people will help you. The other thing is, again, getting into your first job, I mentioned intern programs. Ask. A lot of companies have intern programs that they do not advertise. They might be internal only intern programs, or they may want to do an internship program. They've just never really built one. You can just ask about it. Again, before I said government jobs, these websites here are really good. Ninjajobs.com, great site, originally started by some of my friends. A great place to find cybersecurity and threat intelligence positions, incident response, and so forth. Another one, LinkedIn. It really is a good site for finding cybersecurity positions. Another one is go to the company's websites, and I'm going to hit this one a little bit more later. But you know the names of the big cybersecurity companies, or Google them, right? Top 100 cybersecurity companies. Go to their websites and look at the jobs that are there. The other thing I want to note here, again, things that are not said, but I'm going to say them out loud. Where you work matters as much as what you did. This sucks to say, but the company or organizations that you were associated with are going to carry as much weight as the job you did there. So make sure you look up the companies that you want to work for, because it's really important. So look on Glassdoor and look at cybersecurity metrics of are they on the Gartner matrix and things like that? Do people think that this is a good company? Look them on Twitter and see what people say about them. Things like that. People are happy to crap on other companies on Twitter. So you could go look at them. And I'm not saying don't try to erase the bias and all that, but you can at least take a look at what people are saying about a company. So this does matter. As much as I hate it, it is a reality of the community. Next one, certifications. Certifications are generally useless, especially the ones that require yearly or regular maintenance. Now, I am not here to shit talk on SANS. I love SANS. I've taught for SANS. I've helped build classes for SANS. I don't run a competitor, but I run another, academy. But I have no interest. I don't compete with SANS. What I think is that's a complete racket. So do not pay for those things out of your own pocket. An expired GCTI certificate, by the way, is just as good as an active one. Okay, I just want to let you know as a hiring manager. So that is not a lot of these things are more guidelines than rules. It's more like the Pirates Code here. But just letting you know, but it's a complete racket. Paying for yearly maintenance or what is stupid. You can still list it on your resume that you have the certification. Just give the years that it was valid. That's all I care about. You don't need to keep paying for it. Just letting you know, it is a complete waste of money. And it's just stealing money from people. You already learned the material. You already proved that you learned it. Done. No need to go any further. So the career field, though, is based on experience, not education. Certification can be a path to your experience. So if you are transitioning and you can get a GCTI, SANS GCTI certificate, you can use that to get into CTI. That is a great and very valid way of using certificates. But if you think what certificates aren't going to do is move you up. They will help you get your first job. They can help you move laterally, like transitioning into threat intelligence or transitioning into incident response or going into, digital forensics. Or those, you can use certificates to move. But think of them as that. They're not there to move your career up. They move your career laterally. So that's the only time you should really value certificates. Otherwise, most certificates are complete are just ways of people stealing money, unfortunately. Okay, job titles. This is a big problem, and again, trying to give you as much practical knowledge as I have about things that you should know about in this career field. First of all, there are no good set job titles for anybody. Again, I mentioned that earlier. You can make up your job title. You can ask them to change your job title. That is okay. They may not, just let you know, but as I just said, if you leave the company, they can't do anything about it anymore. So again, just don't lie, don't deceive, but help yourself. So generally down what we have generally two paths. We have something called the individual contributor path, the people will just call it the IC path. These are basically non-management positions. And then we have a management path. There's no either. You can go both ways, by the way. You can jump back and forth in your career. If you choose one path, it doesn't mean you have to stay there. Those are, all things that are honestly 30-year-old advice that don't really matter in this career path. People are moving a lot more freely and it's more beneficial. It's great that I love bringing on individual contributors who are managers. You want to know why? Because they understand problems far differently than people who are never managers. And I love that. I completely value that experience. I like managers who were individual contributors because they understand how to do the job. And of course, individual contributors don't make great managers, and great managers don't always make individual contributors. These are two different jobs. So just realize all of those are that's realistic in this path. But here you can kind of see, and a lot of people ask me this question, and not a lot of people talk about this. So maybe this is a little bit of quote unquote secret knowledge. How many years generally should it take you to move between levels? Now these numbers are going to change. So if you come to me in 2 years from now and you're like, oh, those numbers aren't right, I'm going to be like, yeah, guess what? Things change in a career field. But right now, you shouldn't be an intern for more than a year. It should definitely be less, 6 months, 9 months at most. You may have jobs that do not. I had jobs at Dragos. I took interns at Dragos. I loved it. I love having interns. I could not guarantee them a job after their internship, and that sucks. Some people take an internship expecting they're going to get a job out of it. That may not be the case. But guess what? I was also honest with them. I said, look, if I have a position that works when you are done with the internship, yes, absolutely, I will consider you very strongly for that position. But if I don't, I can't make magic happen for you either. So just realize that there are internship paths to jobs, basically intern to hire positions. And then there are just straight intern positions, and realize that both are okay. Just recognize that you got to ask which one you're actually getting into because they are different. And if they're hiding that from you, that isn't a good thing either. And shouldn't be allowed. We should tell people one or the other. You should then, after about a year, you should be in a junior or an associate position, whatever they tend to call it. Again, these names kind of change around. After about 2 to 3 years in a junior position in cybersecurity right now, you should be moving into a senior role. 3 years in cybersecurity right now makes you basically a senior in your specific skill set. Now, recognize at that point you're starting to specialize. So you're going to have to build those specialized skills for that, whatever you're doing, whether it's malware reverse engineering or hardware or disk forensics or network analysis or whatever you're doing, right? You're going to have to start building those skills. But within about 3 years, you should be a senior. If you're, and I'll talk a little bit about what happens when these numbers don't match up. Okay. Next, principal. About 3 years after you get senior, you should be basically you should basically be seeing principal right on the horizon for you. So principal position should be about 6 years-ish, 7 years maybe to get from the beginning of your career. And then from there, it depends. Some people will get a lead role. There are very few of them. And those lead roles will generally come usually 2 to 3 years after becoming a principal. And that's challenging. Not all companies have these lead roles and things like that. And then, of course, we also have now in cybersecurity distinguished positions. And these are people that have been doing it now for probably 15, 20 years or more. And again, these people, I like to tell you, you should not hire, or you should not your job shouldn't move based on the time in your path, by the way. It should be skill-based, right? There should be as much of a meritocracy as possible built into the system. But these are the general timelines that seem to be best, that seem to work the best for people, okay? So I have a question from somebody. There's a huge discrepancy between individual contributors and executive paths in terms of compensation. Absolutely. I fought many years to get a director level individual contributor, and then they, and it happened after I left the company. So yeah, certain things don't change until after you leave. It sucks, and it is the world we live in. But yes, that is the case. Not in all companies. Not in all companies, though. That does happen, absolutely, but it doesn't happen everywhere. I just want to let you know. We're going to talk about that in a second. The management path tends to work like this. You're a manager, whatever they want to call you. A director, generally that's like, a larger manager, you have a bigger group, or you're managing managers at that point. You're a senior director and then executive. Generally, it takes about 3 to 4 years to move up between roles. So you will see 12 to 15 years generally to become an executive somewhere is generally a good case if you're following the general timeline. Okay, so again, this is just stuff people don't really talk about openly. This is generally the way most careers I've seen go, and how most companies are organized to move people through the career paths. Again, I'm gonna share with you some more secrets about this in a second. One, don't let anyone lie to you and tell you that titles don't matter. They absolutely do. Don't lie to yourself. Don't let others lie to you about this. Why? As a hiring manager, I only have a very short amount of time to analyze a resume. What your title says is important to me. It is one of those pieces of information you are giving me. Okay, so don't think it doesn't matter. It absolutely does. But they don't matter the way that you would think that they do. Because what I'm doing is I'm trying to put you in a box. I'm trying to classify you. Will you be good enough for this position? Do I think you could do this position? Where do I think you need training or support? How would you work with other people who have complementary skills on the team? That is what I'm trying to do as a hiring manager. I'm trying to fit you into a box of, do you fit here? Do you fit with this other person? Would you fit with this general scheme of what's trying to go on, what I'm trying to do? You're a puzzle in this puzzle. You're a puzzle piece in this puzzle. Okay, your title helps with me putting you in a box. Okay, again, things people don't talk about, but I'm here to tell you. But as I've mentioned before, you can change your title. There's no law preventing that. Again, do not lie, do not deceive, do not embellish, but changing your title to be something that is more effective to communicate is absolutely okay. Next. Okay, so here comes to this previous question. So managers, and that's exactly what I'm about to get into. Management and technical, and how you transition between them, and things like that. We might go over an hour, by the way, and I'm just going to stay on for a little bit. You're welcome to drop, obviously, or whenever, stay on or ask more questions. So, okay, there will be time in your career when you may consider management. And there's a lot of considerations in that. The one thing you've got to understand is you can go back and forth in your career. It is okay. People do it all the time. I can tell you because I see the resumes. And it's not a bad thing. Recognizing that you are not fit to be a manager or you didn't like it or whatever is okay. And people will be okay with that. Like, hey, look, it didn't really work out for me. It was, I had all these other issues and I just couldn't do it. Okay. That doesn't make you a bad individual contributor. So recognize that you can go between them. The number one rule of management, though, is, and this is weird to say because it gets right to what the previous question was, which was the difference in pay between managers and non-managers. Don't do it for the money. Yes, generally managers will get paid better than non-managers. I can tell you though that not in all situations. I have been, as a manager, I've been paid less than my individual contributors. I'm okay with that. They are more valuable than I am at times, and that's okay to say. And so that doesn't happen everywhere. Just letting you know. So you can't, as an individual contributor, you can get paid more than your boss, and that is okay. And again, it comes down to just asking for it or demanding it or expecting it is an okay thing. The change doesn't happen unless you expect it and demand it, by the way. So, and we all know that that's the right way to do things. So, money, by the way, will not make up for the difficulty of management. I came out with a computer science degree. I only came up with it. I came in with a computer science degree. I don't know how to be a manager. My college, my master's in computer science doesn't tell me how to be a manager. I have no experience. It is a completely different career field. Don't think of it as, oh, well, I did cybersecurity. Now I'm going to be a cybersecurity manager. No. Cybersecurity, the word cybersecurity in the word cybersecurity manager doesn't mean as much as you think it does. You got to think of it as a lateral change of career. Okay. And that's hard for most people because they see, oh, well, management is just the traditional method of moving up. It's not. And if you think of it that way, you're going to get very, very frustrated by what is going to happen to you. So you have to think of management as something totally different than what you were doing before. It isn't a transition, it's a move. Okay, you are moving out of it into a different career. It takes all new skills, all new knowledge, all new experiences to be a manager. I like to tell people the first 3 years of being a manager is all about learning how to fail, because that's what you're going to do as a manager your first 3 years. You're going to fail over and over and over again, and you're going to feel like a failure. You will figure it out, and you can be a good manager, but it is not an easy path to take. So don't think of this as I'm an IC, I just want to be a manager now. You think of it differently. Okay. Also, the other thing is generally managers don't get paid overtime. That's also another difference. And that can be a big difference, especially if you're doing like incident response or you're doing availability pay or overtime or weekend or holiday pay. Those things can be great. Managers tend not to get any of that. So your life will suck. It will be just as hard. You just won't necessarily get compensated for all of it anymore. So just, again, I'm throwing some realism into what people think of these things. Okay, another point here. I only accepted a manager position when I was offered support. That's absolutely right. Support to help, support from your HR team, support from your sales team, things like that. You've got to get support as a manager. Okay. Moving forward, okay, so one thing I want to note is this is about transition. Transition of how do you go from an individual contributor to be a manager? The biggest thing, because I have promoted, if you want to call it that. It's not a promotion, like I said, you're literally moving into a different role. A lot of companies call it promotion. I think that's a terrible thing for it. I have, quote unquote, though, promoted quite a few people from individual contributors to managers. And I can tell you that there's only one thing I really look for is reliability, stability, and problem solving. If you can be reliable, if you can be very stable in terms of change and frustration and understanding, things like that, and you can be a problem solver rather than a problem bringer, then you are probably going to be and people around you like you, by the way, I got to say that. And generally you're a very likable person, right? You get along with everybody. You will be a good manager and you can transition that way. Moving into management roles in cybersecurity is actually really easy. If you've done about 4 or 5 years as an individual contributor, just start applying for management roles. That's it. There are so many jobs in the cybersecurity field that is literally all it's taking right now. And this is a numbers game. Not all the jobs you apply to you're going to get. So you have to do it a bunch, right? We all know that. But it will happen. If you have 4 to 5 years of technical or individual contributor work, most people will consider you, quote unquote, ready to be a manager at that point. And you just use that to your advantage. Okay. The cybersecurity community is both one of the most toxic communities and one of the nicest communities in the world. And yes, it is both at the same time. It can be very, very brutal and mean to its extreme detriment, of course, but it's also extremely helpful. And you got to find the helpers, as we sometimes say in life. So find Discord servers, look on Twitter. What are people talking about? And use Twitter, use Mastodon, use LinkedIn. The number one thing I got to tell people is the only way you build a network is by interacting. And I know that's hard. Trust me, coming from an introvert, by the way, I play a very good extrovert on television, okay? But coming from an introvert, I can tell you my hardest thing about learning how to do this job was to getting over my fear of interacting with people and just walk up to people and introduce yourself. And get over that fear, practice it, because you will learn that people are not going to hate you. They're not going to ignore you. They're not going to talk down to you, right? You have to learn that. So if you ask for help, you will almost always get it. And that's the thing, is not enough people ask when they need something or want to know something. And you should absolutely be doing that to people. People will not think you're bad or mean or taking their time or anything like that. It is something that a lot of people, because a lot of people in this career got there by doing that. And a lot of people recognize the value in it, and they will recognize people who are utilizing that skill, okay? Also, if you want to transition from an individual contributor to a manager, this is critical because, again, if you want to be a manager, you can literally just ask on a Discord server, say, hey, I've been a technical person for 5 years. Does anyone know any good entry-level management positions in cybersecurity or threat intelligence, or anyone looking to grow their teams in that way that I can, talk to? You will get people who tell you if you just ask. Okay, some cybersecurity resume tips. Focus on experience. If you don't have the experience, focus on the qualities of your background that make you good at doing this type of job. A cover letter in cybersecurity is invaluable. And I know that there's a lot of like, should you do a cover letter? Shouldn't you do a cover? I can tell you it works. Okay, it's not going to be read by everybody. It is not a silver bullet. Nothing is, but it does help you. So a cover letter is a great way. I read every single cover letter and I encouraged people to send me cover letters. And I know a lot of other managers who love that as well. It's my only way of getting to know you. And fundamentally, that's what I want to do when I'm looking to hire you. Get an editor to help you, please, please. I would actually send a lot of feedback to people with resumes. People would send me resumes and I would ask them if they want some feedback on it. And most people said yes, and I would give them feedback. I'd say, look, this is what you need to improve on your resume. So when you send a resume to somebody, you can ask them, hey, you know what, I'd also like it if you could just give me 1 or 2 pointers that could improve my resume while you're looking at it. They're already spending their time looking at your resume. They can give you a couple of points on that. Yeah, you can hold me to that, by the way. Absolutely. I've done it throughout my career. Happy to continue to do it. It's very important. Okay, so a couple of other notes and like hints or tips that I want to share with you that, again, aren't really talked about. Apply directly to an organization's website. Do not apply through Indeed or Monster Jobs or ninjajobs.com. You can find the jobs there, but do not apply through there. Go directly to that company's website and apply directly through there. Okay, it makes a huge difference in getting yourself found. Another thing, interact positively with people in that company. I'm dead serious. Find out where they are on social media, comment on their stuff. Nobody sees this as bad, right? This is the game we all play. We recognize it, and it's okay. As long as you are being beneficial and positive, I'm happy to learn who you are and be like, oh, yeah, that person's interested in what I'm doing and what I'm talking about. You know, I'm going to evaluate you very much like I evaluate other people, but I'm also going to know you a little bit more now than I did if I just got your resume cold in front of me. Okay, it does work and it's valuable and nobody cares. Just letting you know, don't feel bad about that stuff. Also use your network, as I just mentioned. Ask. You need help. Ask for it. You want to transition? Ask for it. You want to become a manager? Ask if anybody knows of where they're hiring managers. Those are absolutely beneficial. Okay, last thing I want to note is mental health. Don't let your career become who you are or how you define yourself. One of the things I hate about people, by the way, is the first thing you do when you meet somebody, what do you ask them? What do you do? It's a stupid question. It's not how we should define ourselves. It's not how you should define other people. The question I start leading with now is, hey, what are things that you're interested in? Is how I've started to engage in that. That's really, really important. So don't let that become you. Also, it's okay if you don't do something you love, which is something we got to be honest with ourselves and tell ourselves. A lot of people out there who lie about this. Is it great that you do something you love? Absolutely. Do you have to do something you love? Do you have to come at me with your cybersecurity resume and be like, I love this. This is all I want to do in my life. I've wanted to do this since I was 3 years old. No, that scares the hell out of me, honestly. Why? Because I think you might burn out, with that. And I love your passion and I want passion, but you don't have to make it a defining feature of who you are and what you do. Okay. It's okay for a job just to be interesting. And we can leave it at that. The other thing you need to know is you are your only effective advocate. Surround yourself by people who love you and take care of you, but you are the only one who can really advocate for yourself. Others can support you, but really you are the one. So fight for yourself. I have a link here. You can find it by just Googling it or whatever to a quote. I've had a couple of really terrible burnouts in my career. As you can tell, I'm super passionate about this. I love what I do. It's very hard for me to temper my passion to allow me to continue for long periods of time, but it is real. And I want to share that with people of what's happened to me and maybe how you can help protect yourself against it. Okay, so again, don't forget about the new seminar I've got coming up. Go ahead and go there and you can just sign up for if you're interested in it, and you can get an email about it when I launch it next month. But otherwise, I'm just going to stick around for a few more minutes here and ask any questions that you have. Yes, here's a point from the chat. Know when to stop. God, yes, it's something you have to learn, unfortunately, through experience. And yes, sustained high performance comes at a price. Your gas tank is not infinite. Okay, and I've had to learn that. So do what you think works best. See a therapist, do yoga, do mindfulness. These things are wonderful. Take advantage of that. Yes, please take care of yourself. I can't stress it enough. Cybersecurity sucks at how hard it burns people out because it's just constantly changing and constantly going. There's always fires. You know what I've learned though over my career? The fires will still be there. Why? Because it never ends. So don't burn yourself on one fire when you know you're going to have another fire next week. Those doing incident response know exactly what I'm talking about because they feel it, I think, more acutely than a lot of other people do in this career field. So. The fire inside you never ends either. So it's okay. It's okay to recognize when you need something. The other thing I want to say is, did I skip that? Oh yeah, moving. I did skip over that. I shouldn't. You should move. Okay. And this sucks to say, but I think we all know it and we should say it out loud. You should move jobs every 3 to 5 years. Less than that if you think you need to, but 3 to 5 years is fine. After 5 years, you've done a lot of what you came to do. I can promise you that. And I'm not saying leave, right? I'm just saying you can evaluate it and you can be honest with yourself after that period of time. You will get a better job title. You will get a better salary if you move. There is no set of data anywhere that contradicts that advice, by the way. In fact, there was a Wall Street Journal article just the other day about that. People who move jobs more often get paid more. And so again, I'm not here to lie to you. That happens, and you should take advantage of it. Don't ever sell yourself short. The other one, though, is if you are ever employed for less than a year, you're probably going to need to answer the question, what happened? Okay, just letting you know, be prepared for that. If you are employed, though, for more than a year in cybersecurity, almost nobody's going to ever ask. That doesn't look weird on a career anymore. Okay, so a couple of questions here question, is it easy to go those of you who have management, is it easy to go into an IC role? It is. Here's the secret: go into program management. If you want to go that direction, an easy path is if you're a manager, if you're a decent manager, you've already proven you're a good organizer. Find a good program management job, which is an IC role, which will utilize those skills and allow you to transition over. That's a great path that I've seen a lot of people take. Another question I have here is I've had trouble getting into CTI, and my employers tell me it's because, one, I had years of experience in IT, but no jobs that were specifically in cybersecurity. By the way, that is a completely ignorant viewpoint of cybersecurity. All cybersecurity people are IT people in a way. We all started as IT people. There was nothing before it. So anyone who thinks differently, by the way, needs to get re-educated on that. And two, I've been self-employed for over a decade. Wonderful. Congratulations. Being self-employed is very hard. And in fact, it's a great qualifier for a lot of jobs. Why? Because you know a lot of stuff nobody else does, by the way. And this is where a lot of people just need to get told the truth about how to broaden their perspective of the world. So the answer is you really need to recraft your resume. And you probably need somebody who's in the field to help you with that, to be honest with you. And you need to really focus more on the skills that are going to be more applicable and you're bringing to the table, and put it in a way that's not an IT role. And trust me, you did cybersecurity things in IT. I guarantee it, because all cybersecurity is IT. It's just a different thing. So yeah, there are ways of getting it. Get some help on that. Okay, would also like to know, what do you think about putting your job title of the target role on your resume next to your name? I love it. I think it's great. Tell me what you want to do. That's the problem I have with a lot of people, is they just don't tell me what they want, and I have to guess. And we play this really weird dance, and I'm like, I don't want to play this anymore. So could you just tell me what you're looking for, and we can figure it out. It might not be the exact role, but it could be a path to the role. Okay. Another one. What are your thoughts about law enforcement compliance landing a role in GRC? I think it's amazing. I think criminology is a great path into cybersecurity. I think there's a lot of people who want to do that. And compliance is an amazing area that needs a lot of smart people. We have to get much better at compliance. I think if you can position your experience in criminology into understanding how bad people do things, how you can transition mitigations, knowing that, you're like, look, I've studied for you can transition it as like, I studied for 4 years how, malicious actors, react to different inputs into the environment and what the outcomes are, enabling me to really well understand what compliance measures are useful for dissuading or disabling adversaries from doing operations. Those are the ways you can very much transition that experience into cybersecurity. Okay, as a film major with no experience, it sounds like the best option would be getting trained by the government. Is that true? Yes. Probably is. Now, there are a lot of people who, as I mentioned, like, I'm going to put filmmaking into art. I apologize if you take offense to that. But I'm not an art major. I love art, but I'm not an art major, so do apologize for my naivete there. But my recommendation is government is almost always a good path for a transition. It's very easy. Doesn't pay super well. Maybe better than what you're doing now. I don't know, but that's something you have to take into account. They would absolutely sponsor certifications. In fact, that's one of the ways the government is like, hey, we're going to underpay you, but we're going to get you certifications. So they talk up that one a lot. And you can negotiate that as part of your onboarding with the government, is how many certifications you're going to expect them to give you. So yes, and you're welcome. Everybody here is welcome to stay in touch with me, by the way. Have questions, whatever, drop me on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on email, I don't care. Happy to answer your question. I may not be able to get to everybody right away, by the way, but I will absolutely get back to you. Another one. I started working as a junior malware analyst last month. Congratulations. Malware analysis is flipping hard, by the way. So that's great. Could you tell us a bit more about a career in malware reverse engineering? Okay. Reverse engineering is really difficult because it's only really one skill set. Okay, just to be plain and honest with you. You will be able to roll up into principal, into senior roles. You may not be able to go much higher. There's not a huge, after about 10 years, maybe a little bit more, you're gonna basically max out, just so you know. And that's not unheard of for all careers, but I just want to let you know where you're going to be, if that's all you spend your time doing. I would recommend that while you are growing yourself as a malware reverse engineer, first of all, by the way, if you just started, 100% dedicate yourself to that. Do not diversify right now. Don't do it. You need to spend your time on learning how to be an RE. It's a very difficult path. I love it. I love it. I tell people, if there was one job in cybersecurity I would recommend is like the best first job, it would be a reverse engineer. But I also got to say, it is probably the hardest first job in cybersecurity. It is not for everybody. That's why I don't recommend it as like a #1 talking point. But it will teach you so much. Reverse engineering touches so much of the rest of the cybersecurity field. It's very, very valuable. So as a reverse engineer, one, you will be extremely valuable. In 5 years, you will be able to demand an incredible salary because there are not many people who do it. There's not many people who stay with it for very long, because it does burn people out. It can become very tedious. It can become very challenging. My answer to you is you're going to have to diversify eventually. And you may stay a malware reverse engineer, but you're gonna maybe have to do other things to kind of broaden that. Because I also guarantee you may just burn out. You might just get bored. Because that's what happens into a lot of careers in reverse engineering. And I've had to mentor a lot of people through that in my career path. So. Okay, another one. Somebody's really interested in threat intelligence. I know it would be a rare. Oh yeah, by the way, I will be sharing this recording out for everybody. So really interested in threat intelligence. As a fresher, I know that there would be a rare entry-level opportunity on this. Yes. Bringing somebody in as a threat intel analyst with no other experience is really hard. And the reason for it is because threat intelligence is actually a synthesis of a lot of different things. And so it's very hard to just like run into threat intelligence because again, it requires kind of part of being a threat intelligence analyst is experience. And if you don't have it, it becomes very hard for you to kind of grow it in threat intelligence. This is why I say go after like operational jobs first and then transition over. That tends to build a much better long-term career path for people. Okay, so the question comes down to, if I were to make myself stand out, what would you recommend me to do? I would love your thoughts, and thank you. And thank you for the kind words there also. Okay, so you have to focus on what you know. And the experiences that you've had. Those do not have to be in cybersecurity, but you have to be a good analyst, and an analyst requires experience. That's one of the problems with cyber threat intelligence, is it's not really an entry-level thing. It's really hard. And I brought a lot of people in as an entry-level analyst. It takes a long time. It's not the most efficient way of building your career. If they had jumped over to a security operations center and been a security operations center or incident responder for 2 years before they came over to threat intelligence, they would have moved much more rapidly through threat intelligence than that they did. Because again, threat intelligence is a synthesis. So it requires a lot of broad experience to get you there. So it is not the path that most people should be just like, I'm just going to go straight up threat intelligence. Because it does, and a lot of people who do that, I have to spend a lot of time sending them out, being like, okay, now you're going to have to go do a year over here in incident response. You have to go over here because you need those experiences to be good threat intelligence analysts. So to give you the answer of what should you do to stand out to get that job, it's that. It's you're going to have to show that you have a breadth of experience and you're a good analyst. You can think through problems. And it's going to be challenging to just jump right into threat intelligence. And it's going to take a long time. I would recommend if you're interested in threat intelligence, I love it. I've obviously made it, my primary career. I can do lots of things. I've done lots of things, but it's what I do the most. I would highly recommend you don't jump right into that. You will go faster and you will be a better analyst if you jump through something else into threat intelligence. Okay. Another question. This is a great point. I forgot to make this point. Yes. Also, sales, marketing in cybersecurity are not bad paths to jump through. Just letting you know, don't think negatively about those. Okay. So I also have a lot of good people I know who transitioned from a very technical field into sales and marketing because they wanted to use your skill set in a different way. Again, don't think of your life as just you're running to an end. It's a very circuitous journey that you're on, okay? And it's okay. So think broader about what you could do in your life and other things you could do to get there. So it's not just a straight path. So yes. So also going into sales, going into marketing are great. Another question. I'm coming from a traditional Air Force intel background. Well, thank you very much for doing that. Worked in a cyber operations squadron, great intelligence support to cyber operations, perfect. I have certifications and several degrees. Congratulations, that sounds great. Again, military government tends to do very well in this career space from a training perspective. It sounds like you're coming into it with a fantastic background. So, okay, so you've already been doing this for a while, it sounds like, probably for at least 2 years. I'm going to guess you've at least been professionalized at least the last 6 years. Okay, so yeah, I was going to say at least 2 years, probably 4. Okay, 6. So at 6 years, the CISSP is by the way, a great certification. It's one of I do not like to tell people what certifications to get. The CISSP is one of the good ones. It's not one that's not a check. It's not a checkbox though. It doesn't make things magically happen for you. So be careful of that. And it's also very expensive. Okay, CISP would be at 6 years would be a decent certification for you to get. It would give a checkbox. The ISC square training for everything is very good. And the certification is very high quality and it will get you things. But realize that that the CISSP is only good early in your career. Like most certifications. It only helps you with your first couple of jobs. So if you are finding that your military experience, which by the way, 6 years as an intel officer, doing cybersecurity, cyber operations support, things like that, you might need some help with your resume if you're not finding the right landing pad for you, by the way. Because I think with that background, there are a lot of opportunities for you. So there might be something else that we need to do to help you out with that. But yes, at 6 years, a CISSP will be good. It will only be good for about the next 4 years, just to let you know. It really won't be helpful. After about 10 years in your career, nobody cares about certifications anymore. At least no job that you really care about. Honestly, I've had a couple people who were like, oh, Sergio, I would love to, consider you for the CISO position. And they're like, do you have your CISSP? And I was like, I gave my CSS, I had my CISSP, I gave it up a long time. I didn't want to continue to pay, pay for it. And they were like, oh, well, we can't accept you without the CISSP. I'm like, good, because that's a CISO job I do not want. If they are literally hiring based on checkboxes, like that's a problem with the organization. So it can also be a good way to keep you out of organizations that you may not want to be a part of. Just let you know, a little side thing about certifications. Another one. The other thing is some jobs just require it. I was at NSA for 8 years. My 4th year at NSA, they changed my job requirement and they said, you must get your CISSP, which is how I ended up getting it. I didn't need it. I didn't really want it, but they were like, no, DoD regulations are, you're going to get this thing. And I was like, okay, I guess if you're going to pay for it and I get to go to class for a week and whatever, yay. And so I did. But again, so sometimes certifications are just, especially in government jobs, can just be a requirement of the position. So yes, if you hold an information assurance or information security position in the US Department of Defense, there are several certifications you're going to have to get. Now, it's not going to stop them from hiring you, but you're going to have to get it like within the first year, and they're going to pay it for you and all that stuff. So just letting you know. Great. Cool. I'm just going to wait just another few seconds here to see if anybody else has any other questions. Awesome. Okay. I'd love for any of you to join my seminar if you're interested. Again, it's a lot of fun. It's kind of like this. I'm going to take a topic and just kind of riff on it and talk all of the different aspects of it and rip something apart end to end. So I hope it's a great opportunity. I really appreciate everyone's time. Thank you so much for staying over. And if you, and I will post the video for you. So thank you all so much. Stay in contact. Okay. Bye-bye.